I'm excited, very excited, to introduce Charles Antis, who's going to be joining me today to talk a little bit about what Jeff was just referring to and how you can really truly integrate civic engagement into the culture of your company. We really feel like Charles exemplifies that here in Orange County and really could be a great example for other small businesses across the country. So I'm going to share a little bit about Charles, and then we'll bring him on. And there's his face, but I'm gonna talk about you, Charles. So I hope you don't get too bashful about it. But Charles Antis is the founder and CEO of Antis Roofing and Waterproofing, which is headquartered here in Orange County, California. And they've been serving Southern California for 32 years as both a leader in the roofing industry and corporate social responsibility. Key to Charles's personal and professional brand and success has been his involvement at the local national level, specific to his industry, and making the connections between that and the needs of our nonprofits in the community. Through his service on the National Roofing Contractors Association Board, that's a mouthful, he co-initiated the national adoption of all 165 Ronald McDonald homes across the country. At a local level, Antis Roofing and Waterproofing has donated the roof installation at every home built by Habitat for Humanity in Orange County since 2009. Additionally, he has held leadership positions at Ronald McDonald House, Cal State Fullerton Center for Leadership, Orange County United Way, and is a founding partner of the California Love Drop, an initiative that started during the pandemic of April 2020 with the delivery of 300 meals from Wahoo's Fish Tacos to Hoag Hospital, to a collaboration of businesses that have delivered over 11,000 meals to 61 different locations. Charles has been the recipient of many prestigious national and local awards, including, but very much not limited to, the 2021 Homemade Subcontractor of the Year, the 2020 Hispanic Leadership Award from the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, IMA Impact 2020 Award, American Red Cross Corporate Hero Award, and a Civic 50 honoree in 2019, and a Civic 50 participant in 2021 as well. He was awarded in 2018 with the Business of the Year from the Greater Irvine Chamber of Commerce and the CACM Vision Award for Corporate Social Responsibility. And trust me, the list goes on. As you're going to see during today's chat, Charles is a master storyteller and inspirational speaker who lives and breathes his philosophy. His long list of accolades and accomplishments only shows the value and impact of exemplary community engagement. He has created a community through his company and professional networks that allows him to connect profoundly with his employees and business partners and provide meaningful and significant impact on the community. Please join me in welcoming Charles Antis.
Hey, I'm so glad to
Hi,
be here.
Charles.
You were making me emotional with the introduction. That's so weird, but thank you.
Oh, but then I've done my job, I guess. Well, thank you for being here. We're really excited. Any last minute quick things you want to add? I know I covered a lot, but let me tell you that's by all means not everything.
Well, right now, today is our 50th blood drive we've had. Yes, we're holding blood drives for American Red Cross. And right now, when I leave this meeting, I will go over and see the blood donors, and where they'll be recording in the recording studio why they donate if they want to, where we can get other people to donate. And who would have thought that a roofing country would be holding blood drives? We might get back to that later.
Definitely. Well, we'll dive in and start chatting a little bit. I've got some questions for you, Charles, and feel free to answer them in your most Charles way possible. I think that's going to be the best. People are excited to hear what you have to say and hear your stories. So let's start kind of at the top. How does civic engagement fit into your company culture at Antis Roofing?
I'm putting on a stopwatch. It's everything. I didn't know it could be. Who knew that real stories, what really matters, could show up at work? But when, like it was said earlier, when you claim it, when you make the claim, if you're a leader, that we exist to keep families safe and dry, then it can show up anywhere in your company, and I think to quickly qualify, I didn't know this, except that I'm a roofing contractor and I need to keep families safe and dry to make my money. And one day, 32 years ago, I was called to a house and I went there to make money. But when I got to it, I saw dead grass and I knew there was no money, but I knocked on the door anyway because my dad told me to show up no matter what when you commit to do so. And I knocked on a door thinking originally that this would be a job. But instead, when it was opened, I saw a woman with a really tired expression. And before I could say anything, I was hit with the smell of mildew that was so great it nearly knocked me down. Then as I'm wondering what I'm going to say as I get out of here, because I had to leave then, it was knocking me out of the house. I felt a tug at my finger. And I looked down, and in contrast to the look on this woman's face and on my face, there was a little girl, 6 years old, with blonde hair and an ear-to-ear smile. And she was so happy to have a visitor in her house. It's like she hadn't had one. She pulled me inside this crowded living room into an undersized hallway. She turns right into her bedroom. I knew it was her room because she pointed to a My Little Pony poster on the wall. But that was the moment I looked down and saw a moldy mattress where she slept. I was stuck. I couldn't move. It wasn't a happy thought yet because I did not at that moment have capacity until the mom walked back in. I saw that look back on her face and something came out of me that I don't ever remember saying before then. I said, in so many words, I said, I'm going to keep your family safe and dry. I'm going to take care of your roof. And I'm wondering when I was saying it, what I was saying. I didn't know that I had capacity, but somehow in that moment, I didn't say no. I said maybe. And I went up on that roof and they needed a new roof, but I was able to get on the phone and get 6 volunteers. And that weekend we came out and we re-roofed that house. It was one of the first roofs I ever installed in my life. I wasn't really qualified, but it was dry. And the family stayed in that house. And this is the moment that I have to tell the story because this repeats itself over and over again, whether it's a blood drive or me delivering a box of food. There is like a powerful moment. It's like a doctor on an airplane. When we think of that doctor on an airplane, we know he has capacity and we know he or she will say yes. When the pilot comes over the intercom and says, excuse me, there's a medical emergency, that doctor raises his or her hand. And in that moment, that doctor delivers that life-saving moment. And he had capacity to do so. Why am I different? Why are you different? We all have that. We all have that thing we can do in that moment where we are the one, just like the doctor on an airplane, the only one in the world that can provide that service. And that's what happened to me in that moment, in that small home 32 years ago. I had the ability to make that family watertight. And what I found is by doing so, I created everything. We created everything because every time we said yes, because we couldn't let that family have a leaky roof just because they didn't have the money to pay. Every time we said yes, because we couldn't let that family not have food just because they didn't have the money to pay. Every time we said yes, because that family didn't have a place to stay with a dry roof. And man, it's like everything changed. Everything changes. We become different. That capacity grows. And that's what I discovered ever since that first roof. So I kind of went on a little swim there. Sorry, but take me back.
No, that's fantastic. I think it kind of shows the origin of who you really are today, right? And this company that you built, which is based on this experience, right? Like, you know, we are all kind of a conglomerate of experiences in life. And this one was truly the moment that changed you. And the beauty of what you do is you have this ability to take your employees along for that ride. You've created a space where you can create those moments, those aha moments for other people, right? For your employees who may not understand what that is.
Yeah,
right.
It's Susan DeGrassi, my VP of Cause. That's the connection to American Red Cross. I don't serve on the American Red Cross board. I don't have time, but it's like I do because we're sharing the story. All it takes, by the way, is one of these things that we got from you. It's called a giving card. It's a simple thing. We give these out by the thousands. I've given out 12,000 of these over the last few years because it helps me know what we have in common. Because you take this off, and it gives you a little reminder of what's important. And you take this and you give it to the cause that's near and dear to you. And when you do that, this is what happens. Now, this is a fictitious story, but this will happen in your company. Let's suppose somebody in marketing, like Susan DeGrassi, who everyone loves, but let's suppose that they did it. And Susan DeGrassi stands up that week and she shares who she gave the giving card that we gave her. She shares who she gave it to and why. And she shares that I gave it to the American Red Cross. And she says, why? She tells about babies that don't have a chance unless people with special platelets go and deliver it. And all of a sudden, people that didn't like her, now they all like her, but people that might not have liked her suddenly get her. And even if she was a hard, little bit of a rude person, they would get her and they would say, you know what? Their subconscious mind would say, I get her. I would be just like her. And all of a sudden, I love her. Can you imagine if you have love showing up at work? And we do, because everything, it shows up in all of our stations. It shows up in marketing. It shows up in finance. It shows up in cause. My director of finance is talking to, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but why not? She's talking to Boys and Girls Club of Central Coast about being on the board. Is she happy? Yes, she is fulfilled because outside of doing finance, she is fulfilled by connecting youth, by giving them the opportunity and giving her special skill to that organization. And by the way, she is an excellent fundraiser. When I get her behind me on American Red Cross or Habitat for Humanity or Ronald McDonald House, man, she delivers, and now she's delivering somewhere else. And by the way, this keeps going. I could talk about Second Harvest Food Bank. I could talk about American Red Cross, Ronald McDonald House. I could talk about Habitat for Humanity, and it keeps going on. And by the way, we're only we're a $20 million company who's in a drought year, which means this year we'll probably do 15 million. But because we have a donor advised fund, we take good years, pre-tax money, which you hold for us. We have over $1 million in there. That could be stretched over 3 years of giving, even when we're losing money potentially. What does this give our brand? It gives us presence, like we've been there, like we'll be there, just like Coca-Cola. And I love that.
Awesome. And I think one of the things that, we work together a lot, Charles, and we talked a little bit about this. And I think you're talking the kind of anecdotal story about Susan, and we all love Susan. So don't worry, that was very much a fictitious anecdotal story. But I think one of the things we've talked about is this idea of vulnerability and how we can find ways to connect with people. And that can be something a lot of times in business people are afraid of is vulnerability and authenticity. And I think that one of the beautiful things that you've done at Antis is really incorporated a space where vulnerability and authenticity is encouraged, because that's how people connect at a human level. And when you do that internally at your company, that shows in your brand as a company and how you connect with the community as a whole. And then you really truly make a true impact on people, and people are happier. So to that, can you talk a little bit about kind of, what has been the value return for this community engagement for you as a company, both internally with your employees and retention and happiness and all that, also business-wise? Like, what has that done to your business? How have you seen it kind of benefit you?
Well, let me speak to vulnerability first, because vulnerability only shows up when you're authentically being you and in storytelling. So you've got to tell experiences. People don't learn things from data. We think we do. We think we're conscious. We think we get it, but we only make decisions. 95% of our decisions are driven by our subconscious brain. So storytelling and authenticity breed vulnerability. And vulnerability is the ability when telling a story to lose your place, to tell, or whatever, or to look at it differently, not tell the story like a tape recorder, but listen to the audience, listen to the questions. And that's something that wasn't prized in business 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, it was often said, Charles, don't show that vulnerability. It's dangerous. Well, things have changed, because vulnerability is the way by which people know you in a world where things are less authentic than they've ever been in our lifetimes. So the vulnerability is that factor. When you fall in the moment and you laugh at yourself, there is something beautiful and trusting about that and unrehearsed. And people need to see you unrehearsed, telling your real stories. And when you do, to answer the question, when you do, then everything changes. That transactional way of doing business switches to a love language, in a sense, where you literally look at impact before profit. You literally look at people before profit. And for years, I chased profit or chased growth for growth's sake. But I've learned I don't chase growth for growth's sake. I chase impact. And that means sometimes it's for my team and my family and my profitability, but oftentimes the return for the profit of the company pales in comparison on the investment to the housing in the general public or to somebody that needs it. So if I see a bigger impact on $1 million here, then I want to deliver it because I see 10 times the return. And thinking exponentially outside of yourself today is a brand of vulnerability that I think is necessary in business. And it doesn't have to be a super give. We're very generous in our giving, and it works out because it ends up with a higher retention. We end up with twice the national average. The last 2 years we tracked, we were over 90% retention when the national average of roofing companies, I know because I've been on the national board, it was only 46%. And so it's a tremendous difference. But what it really gives you is purpose. It gives you a fire when you wake up in the morning. It gives you 30% more productivity at work. And, if you look at the national average, according to Imperative and Aaron Hurst, 70% of the workforce around the world thinks work is drudgery, is literally has PTSD attached to attached to work, in this case, roofing. But but imagine if we could flip that. I believe we make the case at Antis, we flipped that. It was particularly hard for us to reach some of our immigrant employees who grew up with a different set of fears and expectations and hopes. And yet we even have that now. We have the connection with all of our people and all of us all in. Recently, one of my directors in the field, Narciso Alarcon, was interviewed on Telemundo when we were donating our time on a Habitat Build Day. And they said, listen, do you have a home? And he said, no. And he goes, why are you here donating your time to help someone else a home? And I listened to my person who works for me that I love. And he said, because we're all in this together, and he said a bunch of other stuff that was really powerful and spot on and right on and in sync with why we exist, to keep families safe and dry. And when that shows up real and authentically, then it literally shows up everywhere. And in fact, if you look at me, please, those that are listening, follow our company on all the channels. I'm only active personally on LinkedIn, but you will see today I'm active. I'm active most every day, and almost every post gets to purpose, because what I've learned is that's what people really need to see, whether they know it or not. And if somebody finds you odd doing it, that's the person you want to find. Once you want to prove it, you want to push them out. And I don't want to push anybody out. But if somebody doesn't really, it doesn't jive with them, then what it does is it saves you time in dealing with people that could go somewhere else they have better alignment with. Telling who you are, especially when your words build bridges all the way to everybody, all it does is bring more people in. The people that go would be the people that wouldn't be serving you in this cause anyway.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, and I just dropped Charles's LinkedIn into the chat because I think it's a really great example of like how he incorporates it into everything that he does. I think that's a great suggestion, Charles. If you're looking
to
Jessi,
see the post I did this morning. I'm sorry. The post I did this morning is exciting to me, and it's slightly odd. I don't know that people always get it, but it's just a picture of me standing in front of this wall right here. This is a conference room. And I'm standing in front of this wall, and I just say color orange, because I was in this conference room 2 months ago mentoring a sophomore, and she was a graphic arts student, and I couldn't get her to talk. She was paralyzed with fear to talk. And she said she doesn't have words. And finally, I tried to inspire her, oh, does this logo inspire you? And she said, no. And then she said the word color. And that's all she said. And I go, oh, does color matter? And I watched this girl who couldn't speak light up, and she says, yes. I said, well, tell me more. She goes, well, the bright orange gives you hope, and darker orange gives you a feeling of permanence, like it's always been there and it's not going anywhere. And this girl that I was donating my time with had an awakening, but what she really gave me was an awakening. We're really into color theory here at Antis. We know that color matters, like everything matters. But we've been trying to figure out the color orange. And this young sophomore who didn't know she had a voice, turns out she's a natural color theorist. And she gave us a meaning that makes us understand why when we post something in front of this wall, as opposed to the blue wall, or other branded wall, it gets twice the likes. When you bring purpose to the workplace, to give it away, what comes back is powerful. That's no different than the awakening that I had right when the pandemic hit. I didn't know what to do, Jessi. And all I heard about was food insecurity. That's when it finally hit me for the first time in my life that 23% of the people in my vicinity where I live were starving. And I agreed to go deliver a box of food, my first box of food. And I was uncomfortable. It was during COVID. And I delivered this box of food up to the second-story condo of this woman. And she was an elderly woman. She asked me to come in. I wasn't supposed to come in, but I did because she needed me to. And when I walked in, she was saying something to me, and I was feeling almost assaulted. I don't know why. And I saw this woman in an old, thin nightgown. And what she was saying was, bless you, bless you, bless you. And I set the box of food down, feeling uncomfortable. And as I got up, I was hit with something that I hadn't felt for months then, because our Habitat builds have been shut down. Our Meals of Love at Ronald McDonald Bell house had been shut down. And all of a sudden, this woman, when she blessed me, she awakened me in the moment. And I remembered what I was supposed to do and how I was supposed to lead. And then she said, wait a minute. And she went down the hall. And I thought she was going to come back with a gift. And I was thinking what I was going to say, how I was going to decline it. But instead, she comes back with a completely squeezed, flat tube of Colgate toothpaste, asking for more. And so in that moment, I had a beautiful experience. I saw the hope. Wow, this awakening. And yet, oh my God, I'm not done. There's more I can do. And that's where it comes to this capacity. We're a small company, and yet you see us everywhere. And it's because of how we hold it. We realize that we have capacity to change everything. And I think when you think that, you attract and retain top talent. And as a CEO, I say I have the best CEO seat in Orange County, and I believe I do. And I think many people would agree with me. They get to watch me because I get to spend over half my time to students, to people like you, sharing what's working, what's not working, how we can do it better, never at anybody's expense, but sharing real stories, laughing at what's not working. And what I discovered is when you go all in for purpose in a business and it shows up from the top down, then everything changes. People might make fun of your messaging because it is hard to message about good things that you're doing at first, but that stuff actually makes you stronger because when you really do it, the criticism actually makes people aware of you and they listen more, and then you refine your message. And it's a beautiful thing when what was said earlier, make a claim, make a claim that your roofs, that you're donating roofs and transforming lives, that you're changing the world one roof at a time. Make a claim that every nail matters and see what happens. People will show up to build it for you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Charles. That's a great point to end on. I was going to ask you the last question of what advice do you have for other organizations, but I feel like you just kind of gave that advice.
Let me give one thing though. I know we're out of time, but
Perfect.
I got to tell young professionals, even those, you need to donate your time, but it doesn't need to be 40 hours a month like I did at Habitat. You can negotiate, you can give 2-3 hours a month, but get involved with the cause that fulfills you and make sure that the board that you get involved with, that the nonprofit you have involved with has a really strong CEO. It can't just be a strong cause. And make sure the board members have something that you want, literally like, oh my God, to sit next to them would be amazing. And you will develop those traits. But you do need to refine it that way. It needs to be a cause that's real to you. Like I wear the socks because my twins, Charlie and Gracie, were born premature 7 years ago. They're 100% healthy today, but man, it's easy for me to front Ronald McDonald House across the country and get 200 roofing pros to adopt all the roofs. It's easy for me to sit at the campaign chair we just raised $13.7 million to double the size of the house, Katie Rucker and I. That, by the way, that's not easy, raising money. Scary, scary, scary. But when you're telling your real stories, people listen. We had the most successful campaign. We have over 100 locals wearing the socks, rocking the socks with us, donating money and helping us. And that's why we had a $500,000 anonymous donation 6 months ago because of rocking the socks. So we've had but it's because it's our real story. So what's your real story? Is Alzheimer's a particular pain in your family? Turn it into a game. Literally take this thing that plagued your family and say, this is our life and we accept it. Imagine if we could help others with our exact story. And so I tell my stories so that they'll help others. I tell the stories about blood delivery. I tell the story about Nigel, who came in here, and you know what he said? He went in there with his English accent, and he says, I was donating blood the very first day, but I had a parachute drop to do that before I went to give blood for the first time. And on the way down, my chute didn't open, and I knew I was gonna die. So I made a deal with God. I said, God, if you let me live, I promise I'll donate blood every month or every 2 months for the rest of my life. And then Nigel says God kept his part of the deal, so he's keeping his. And he's been back here every 2 months for the last 18 or the last 16 months we've been doing blood drives. And so that's why we do it. It's real. And those stories, some of them show up here, some of them show up there, but they show up word of mouth everywhere. Everything matters. That's what I learned. Thank you.
Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah. Thank you. And Jessi, thanks for your work. Charles, that was amazing. I feel like I've been to the church of social purpose. So,
yeah.
So your job is done for today with this group. That was absolutely wonderful. And, I had a chance to hear you speak a couple of years ago at the chamber meeting, and you bring all of the things that you described to everything that you do. And so thank you for the hundreds and hundreds of homes. Our stories are oddly similar in that I got into this work because I was asked to do a Christmas and April event and work on a house. And, I live in an affluent suburb of DC, and I could not imagine that somebody needed this help in my community. And we did some painting and some rebuilding, and some roofers did some roofing, and we changed someone's life. And I've not forgotten that. And
Love
so
it.
thank you. Thanks for all that you're doing.
Thank you guys.